All right, welcome back. I am Dallin McConkey Kimball.
And I am Kwaku.
And Kwaku,
Yes.
you got yourself in hot water again.
I did.
What did you do this time?
I
The main man, John Dehlin's pissed at you. He's got billboards, dude.
yeah. So he's pissed at me, but it's a general pissment. He's obsessed. He's mad at Apologist right now.
Okay. Why is he mad?
You know what? I could explain it, or we can read his thing. I would like to do a review of his ramblings, his chicken scratchings online.
Yeah.
He wrote about Mormon apologists.
Dude, this is awesome. I used to have to watch, to get drama, I used to have to watch, Outlander on Netflix with
Right.
my wife. And now I just, talk to you about who you pissed off today.
Dude, in our house, it was the Real Housewives.
All right,
Orange
rock
County.
on.
Now it's the Wasatch Front ex-Mormons who need their own show.
Yeah,
they need their own show.
This is kind of sadly pathetic, but still funny. Keep going.
Oh yeah, so John Dehlin, if you guys don't know, is probably the most popular anti-Mormon podcaster. And I know
But
you're
is
thinking,
he really though?
oh yeah, he's the top guy right now. Like you've got other guys,
maybe amongst the boomers, but come on, there's the Imagine Dragons cat.
he's still a member.
Yeah, I know. He's dogging on us sometimes, but I don't know. He's kind of he calls himself special. That's cool. He seems to have a decent vibe about him, you know?
Look, here's the thing though. When you're a rock star, you get away with it.
That's true.
You
could do anything.
when you got a Grammy
Yeah.
and you're touring the world and you're, getting with Victoria's Secret models, I think you can just say about whatever you
That's
want.
true. And to be honest with
you're
you, his
John
music's
Dehlin.
good enough that I'm still just yeah, man.
Yeah, it's you know what? You know what?
Yeah, dude.
I'm not too upset about.
You can
Believer
say
was
whatever
a
you want.
pretty good song.
Same with the dude from Neon Trees, man. I love that cat.
It's like Neon Trees. Hey, he did Broadway. He wrote. I'm fine with Tyler Glenn.
Yeah.
John Dehlin's a little different though.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have the swagger to be a cool ex-Mormon.
Really? Is that because it used to be kind of cool, but now it's a little bit passé, right?
Well, it used to be cool when the conservatives were winning the culture war, because then Utah was the conservative Mormons. Then it was oh, we dominate Utah right now, and the being cool is always about counterculture. So when it was I'm not Mormon, I'm an atheist in Utah, and it's whoa, what? And it's I watch South Park. Oh my god!
Oh, that's edgy. That's right above Simpsons.
I know, yeah, right? And now that the left is winning the culture war, and Salt Lake City is all liberal, and you got a ton of atheists. Utah's basically, 70-30, 60-40 LDS atheist.
Okay.
Well, now, now being an ex-Mormon's he has his own he has two
Well, plus they've
networks.
turned really toxic. Let's be honest. They have it used to be about, oh, hey, let's introduce some scientifically verified concepts and ideas from sociology, maybe into how we counsel people as bishops. There kind of used to be this common goal.
Right.
I am a total 1990s Democrat. Let's use the best of all worlds in order to better society. Come, let us reason together. Let's have this fusion of science and faith and just come one, come all, true diversity. And it's sad, but it kind of used to be the conservatives that were the old people yelling at the young kids, hey, get off my lawn.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you literally would look at the Beastie Boys saying, you got to fight to your right to party.
Right.
And that's literally Kwaku.
Yeah. Well, I throw a party and I threw a party with hot girls, and it makes all the ex-Mormon podcasters mad. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so anyway, just dive right in. What did John Dehlin say about you? Obviously, apparently he saw something that makes him think you're coming after him, and so he wrote.
So he didn't name me, but he did just do a podcast a few weeks ago where he spent half the time with a Jewish woman who had watched me a little bit, and they just bashed on me. And he pulls up the picture of me on the boat with a bunch of girls. Yeah. So it's a boat picture. They're all wearing bikinis, and I have a little Captain Sailor hat, and I'm and the caption is,
oh yeah, it's hilarious.
It's so funny. The caption's something MLK had a dream and I fulfilled it. Objectively
dude,
funny.
Okay,
right?
that is 10% what rappers do on their Instagram feeds, all right? And at least that's hilarious.
Yeah.
And we used to love jokes like that.
And
These ex-Mormons and even kind of just secularism at large now has developed this strangely politically leftist and strangely socially not fun vibe. It used to be the counterculture comedians and the edgy ones
were the liberals.
Were but outside of the political realm, they would push the envelope towards vulgarity.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
George Carlin.
Oh yeah,
Chappelle.
dude.
Freaking even going back to Lenny Bruce,
The-
or the guy who died in the 90s, who looks like Alex Jones. What's his name?
Oh, I don't even remember, dude. You know this better than I do.
Yeah. These guys were.
And I was a stand-up comedian, for heaven's sakes. I should know that.
No, yeah. What a
You're just the internet
was.
goofball. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. I am. That's what I mean. That's what I am. Well, that's the thing. I was a college comedian turned apologist. I wouldn't even call myself an apologist. I just do videos, right? I just make media, and sometimes
it's hilarious.
Defend my faith.
The threshold for apologists is so low now. You just have to call out John Dehlin on his BS, or just call out Bill Reel on his BS.
This is apologist,
and you're an apologist now.
When the ex-Mormons say, well, don't you think it's strange that Joseph Smith would do this kind of charlatanry? And we just go, nah, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you're an apologist. I just don't. So apologist now isn't someone who defends the church. It's anyone who just doesn't believe the claims of these weird Wasatch Front.
Yeah.
And the worst
You're
part
the new skeptics. We're the new skeptics.
We're the skeptics.
Yeah.
Now.
So this
We're
is what
poking
atheists
holes.
felt like in the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh, this is cool.
But we've got more swagger because at least we have cool buildings. You know what I mean? At least we can look back on Christian history. It's like, oh yeah, Sistine Chapel, Salt Lake Temple, cool stuff. What do you guys have? Oh,
an angry podcast.
Yeah.
If there ever were an old cranky man yelling at the young kids to get off their lawn, or telling them slow down in the hallways,
it's these guys. Yeah.
or acting like literally, it looks like the principal from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
See, these guys. Here's the thing: what they don't realize about what's coming with the stuff we're doing, with the media project we're about to drop. These guys are used to only debating professors and other like Wasatch Front boomers who just want to have a dialogue and conversation. No,
and
this is war. This is not a dialogue anymore.
No, and it's so inauthentic though, because at the end of the day, well, actually, let's go over it.
Yeah,
let's show the hypocrisy of these people, because you sent me that yesterday, and it blew my mind that this is a claim a modern apologist has made. Because my entire life, this has been the most one of the second most toxic movement I've ever seen in my life. So just hit it.
Dr. John Dehlin said, I'm putting together a list of the harmful and or dishonest tactics employed by Mormon apologists. Tactics that ultimately harm questioning Mormons who are earnestly seeking truth in order to make important decisions about what to do with their lives.
Okay, well, hold on a second. I got a problem with that first off.
Me
because,
too.
Okay, he hasn't named any apologists and who he's actually talking about. So once again, it's like when the U.S. government decided, oh, well, now we can use any weapons we want against our own citizens if we call them terrorists. Right. And now pretty much anybody we disagree with is terrorist.
NSA, spy them all.
Just, So there's this subjective claim. And then also he says he immediately frames the argument as though the church is the harmful element and takes zero responsibility for the abject harm he has done to thousands of people all over the world. What's crazy, and it's so interesting we're talking about John Dehlin, because I just had lunch yesterday with a beloved person who will remain nameless, okay? But he literally had talked to me about his coming out experience. That kind of seems to be a big argument right now, is the whole LGBTQ experience. And what was so funny is, like, we all knew he was gay years ago. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can see his gayness from space, dude.
Gay members of the church, go to the BYU theater building.
Yeah.
We're fine with it.
Yeah, if you don't think we haven't figured out, like, okay.
You got families with 8 kids in Utah. 2 of them are going to be gay.
Yeah,
right? Take it easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, he confided in me because we were friends. Yeah. And my heart broke. And he literally said, you know what? I literally asked him, I said, dude, like, he kind of made it this big thing. And I get maybe for him there was this deep internal struggle. And for many people, I think it's so healthy to come out. I think it's so good just to be honest with yourself. Right. There's a reason why the church supported the Love Loud concert, because, Socrates said, know thyself, right? Right. So I did ask him, I kind of jokingly said, dude, what took you so long? All of us knew, and you waited until your 20s? And he actually, it broke my heart to hear this. But he said, once I figured out, and I was honest with myself, that I was gay, he said, the first thing I did was very unhealthy, but I went online. Instead of talking to my friends and my family and my beloved scoutmaster and my youth leader and my father and my mother and my best friend and you know what I'm saying? Right. Instead of talking with those people about it, I went online and I started reading what the ex-Mormons and the anti-Mormons said my family was going to do to me and what the church was going to do to me. And because of that, I grew so fearful, I actually considered, we'll say, the he didn't confess to the worst of self-termination, but he did say, I considered self-harm.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because of the crap that John Dehlin says the church will do to you.
Yeah.
Because of the crap that Bill Reel says, you will be shunned and you will be. He said, because of what ex-Mormon Reddit and because of what people like John Dehlin have said for years, I actually, it got into my head. And then he said, the reason why coming out was so important and good to me was because he found out that everybody still loved me.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying? And he actually decided to stay active in the church. He's on a journey. We're all on a journey. Like, I don't care. Like, whether you want to stay or go, fine. That's your prerogative. The only thing I care about is that, you've prayed about it and you feel good about the decision.
Right.
Like I want it to be coming from a place of love and coming from a place of centeredness
because
and
when
peace.
when you're not comfortable with your decision, that's when you lash out and you end up like these guys.
Yeah. And so what really bothers me is he has the audacity. John Dehlin has the audacity to frame the argument as if the church are the people doing harm, when in reality, it's John Dehlin and all of these anti-Mormons saying that you need to hate your family because your dad's probably part of the patriarchy and just a hateful bigot anyway. You're not going to be invited to family vacations. You're not going to be invited. You're going to be shunned. You're going to be hated. You're going to be mocked. You're going to be like, literally the cyberbullying starts in these guys' heads before they even come out. And then when they do come out, they find out, no, you're actually loved. And by the way, I completely condemn any a-hole, and I have met them. Like, this is not to say that stupid bishop who's homophobic, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There are real horror stories out there.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a special place in hell for those who would abuse scripture in order to make something that they fear feel bad. And anybody that condemns anybody for any kind of preference or any kind of desire, we don't condemn attraction, we condemn action. Okay.
Right.
There's been times I've wanted to just like absolutely punch somebody out and knock them out. Like, literally, if I were a cowboy, I probably would have drawn a gun and shot him. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't. And I don't condemn myself for having thought those thoughts. You know what I'm saying? I would condemn myself had I acted upon them. Okay.
Right.
So, yeah, how dare he start out that way? It shows his intellectual dishonesty and the fact he probably never should have had the PhD in the first place, but I bet you a bunch of anti-Mormons over in Logan, Utah gave it to him.
Well, he's not a practicing. Remember, he can't have a practice.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
really?
well, because he...
Okay,
anyway, let's
keep going.
One. So, and I'll share why I have an issue with this. It's this word here. Dishonest tactics employed by Mormon apologists, tactics that ultimately harm questioning Mormons. No, that's not what this is about. So he's going to go on and list the tactics. You're going to find that they're not really it's not like
he's
Steven
scared.
Smoot's like going outside your house at night, throwing a brick through your window, like, keep it up and see what happens. You know what I mean? He's going to list like how people disagree with him.
Yeah.
Because these guys, their ego, they've already been exalted. They don't need the temple ceremony to reach exaltation. They've already exalted themselves. And any sort of confidence against what they're saying is just complete blasphemy to their secular gods.
By the way, isn't it kind of funny, and doesn't it just really show how kind of pampered and unexciting lives these guys live? If you're saying Mormon apologetics online on Twitter and on YouTube is the most harmful thing. Yeah, Facebook. It's bro, move to LA. Move to New York. You want to know what real danger is, dog? I dare you.
I lived in San Francisco, a block away from the Tenderloin district, the homeless boom.
Dude, I lived in Harlem, and in a place in Buenos Aires, we lived in the part of town called Constitucion, which locals called Prostitucion, because it was full of violent pimps. And
my buddy and I walked around downtown Houston at 1 a.m. Been in violent, scary shit. I know people in the Mexican drug cartel. I went to high school with some of them. They're in the cartel now.
Dude, yeah. Okay, so anyway.
Well, in South Jordan, the bishop once said something mean to me, and let me tell you about toxicity. Let me tell you about the Oh, shut up, yo wimp. Okay,
keep going.
So, explicit bias. Mormon apologists explicitly start with the premise that the LDS Church is true. And
Says the guy who starts every podcast.
With the premise of the opposite.
Yeah, and he's getting paid money in order to maintain that premise.
We all have a presupposition.
And he can't say that he's got intellectual dishonesty because his paycheck depends upon it. Yours doesn't. Mine doesn't.
Yeah.
Fair Mormons, Russell M. Nelson's, like, even the apostles only get like a couple $100,000 stipend, like pays for like rent and a Toyota Avalon. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it's like his job is this. My job is events. Your job is something else, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like it's totally different. So, explicitly start with the premise that the LDS Church is true, and thus naturally ignore, deny, or confuse credible evidence against the Church. Pause. No. See, it's fair to start out with a presupposition. If you're running for president, you're not going to say, well, if I would be a good president, that no, how like lack of confidence is that? No, you're going to be a good president, right? Well, one could say that, but there's also credible arguments against why it would be. What?
Well, then also usually the credible arguments about somebody who has abused the true nature of the faith.
Right.
Dude, for heaven's sakes, Butch Cassidy was Mormon.
Oh, yeah,
and he was robbing banks and shooting people. So I'm not here to tell you that every Mormon doesn't, you know.
Was he LDS or was he like a straight guy?
No. He was like baptized when he was 8, and I think he never went to church past the age of 12 or 13.
Right.
But you know, like
Ted Bundy, we got a ton of these.
At the end of the day, he shows up on the rolls of the baptismal sheets of the church somewhere. You know, so like I'm not here to say that
we're perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, the doctrine of the church is that all things on earth, including even the church itself, are fallen.
Right.
Because they are mortal, and our job is to perfect the saints.
Right.
Not admit we're perfect. In fact, Jesus Christ condemned those who said they were perfect as saying, you're not. And they're Samaritans that have figured out more than you have. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So keep going.
Well, thus naturally ignore, deny, or confuse credible evidence against the church while cherry-picking evidences for the church. For questioning Mormons seeking honest, objective answers in order to make real decisions about their lives, this is the priori bias makes Mormon apologists...
A priori, is that what you meant to say? A priori. They use a lot of Latin to make themselves sound
a
cool.
priori, but
yeah.
Well, it's cutting the word because it's like on a...
Yeah, it's like a priori.
Like this,
and he's
so
probably going to say something like ad hominem later, which is just to make him sound cool.
Makes Mormon apologists excessively biased sources to consult. So I'm going to pause right
Smithsonian,
here.
super biased.
Oh, yeah.
They love Mormons.
They don't. For questioning more... Okay. So naturally ignore, deny, or confuse credible evidences against the church while cherry-picking evidences for the church. See, in his mind, if it's against the church, that means it's credible.
Yeah.
But if it's for, it's just cherry-picking. You see, in his mind, his presupposition that the church is false, and that has to be the prominent narrative, it's already bleeding into his I'm trying to be objective thing. He can't even, he can't even separate the two. Because he's a person, right? His goal is to take us down. Our goal is to build us up. That's always going to come through in what we're doing. But he's trying to pretend as if it's
Actually, I
bad
wouldn't even
that we
say
do
our
that.
goal is to build us up. Like, I mean, that might be your goal, but my goal is just
to
really establish truth.
Like removing the podcast, right?
Okay.
You go to the temple, you make the covenants, right? You know what, at the end of the day, when you meet Christ, you'll be able to say, I did my part in trying to build the kingdom of God, right? Right.
Okay.
That's like...
You're a lot more spiritual than me. See, for me, that's not it. I'm just like, for me, it's like, I want us all to get along, and you're stopping us from being able to get along.
Right.
You know, I don't love Mormons. I'll be the first to tell you Mormons are boneheads, 50% of them.
No one hates Mormons more than other Mormons.
yeah, exactly. Like, I'll be the first to tell you Mormons are dumb sometimes, all right? And I probably only like maybe 50% of them, right? But there's that 50%. Like, all I'm asking you is to say, hey, can you give us a batting average of 500? I'm not asking for 100. There's some people out there like, oh my gosh, I love Mormons. They're just so nice. I don't like those kinds of Mormons either. You know what I'm saying? So amongst the anti-Mormon crowd, I am the lowest hanging fruit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to tell me somebody was an idiot and they did something terrible? Well, awesome. Guilty as charged. In fact, I'll march over to the house right now, share scriptures with them about how they've misrepresented their faith, and say there's a special place in hell for you if you continue this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I am the lowest hanging fruit for these guys, but they won't even give us a batting average of 500, 400, 300. The only thing these cats are satisfied with is like 0.
Right. Well.
And so it's like, when I say like, no, can you at least give us batting average of 300 and we'll work with it? No, they won't.
Well, on that, it's funny because this past 2 weeks, all the ex-Mos who've been saying, oh, I'm this big well, I'll say anti-Mormons instead of ex-Mormons because anti-Mormons are really the problem.
Yeah.
I'm this really big hypocrite because at the parties I allow girls to wear short shorts and dance.
Oh yeah, he called you unchristlike, and that is so hilarious for a guy who's like an atheist.
Well, no, it wasn't.
Who cares if
called
your
me that.
opponent is unchristlike?
It's one of the other podcasters, but it's all the same little blogs,
Okay.
right? And it's like, well, wait a minute.
No, he said unchristlike in his post. I read it.
Oh, we'll get to that then.
Okay.
But the thing that's weird is it's like, wait. You think the church is a harmful, patriarchal, oppressive organization that doesn't allow women to have freedom. And now you've got this Mormon apologist at BYU throwing parties where he's basically saying,
Letting him have freedom.
Honor code says you can't have jeans down to here and you can't have jeans up here. I don't really care. Go dance, have a good time, drink your Red Bull. Well, isn't that oppressive? No, I just don't care.
Go have fun, kids, and drink Red Bull. Super oppressive.
Hey, you're telling those young girls to dress too immodestly. Listen, John, I know you want to skid off your lawn, all right, Gran Torino? But let me tell you something.
No, but Gran Torino was cool and ended up having a Christ-like redemption
I've only seen
story.
the trailers of the get off my lawn.
No. That's actually a really bad example because the movie is exceptional. Let's stick with the principle from Ferris Bueller.
All right, yeah. Okay, so let's keep going. This qualifies as an obvious classic logical fallacy known as begging the question, which, quote, ... occurs when an argument's premises assume the truth of the conclusion instead of supporting it. It is a type of circular reasoning.
Which is literally his opening statement.
Yeah.
Supporting the conclusion before you've gotten to it is literally the way he frames the opening phrase of his statement.
Yeah, harmful or dishonest tactics. How do you know they're harmful or dishonest? Because they are. Well, how do you know? Here's my reasons why they are. Isn't that kind of circular? Shut up, I'm John Dehlin.
Yeah, and then he says, and don't make ad hominem attacks while I make ad hominem attacks.
Oh, we're getting to that. That's gonna
okay.
It's so funny. It's a type of circular reasoning, an argument that requires the desired conclusion be true. This often occurs in an indirect way such that the fallacy's presence is hidden or at least not easily apparent, unquote. So basically saying we use circular reasoning, and off the get-go we're trying to prove our point. Yeah. Wow, what a crazy thing to do in the age of discussion and podcasting. Dude, you host a show that your goal is to get people not to believe.
And what's hilarious is you want to talk about hidden agendas. Mormon Stories is a primary song that alludes to a positive thing. He literally fools people. He wolves in sheep clothing.
His billboard does not say like want to leave the church. It's learn more about your religion. Suddenly hear Mormon stories.
Yeah.
So, oh wow, that seems great.
I thought about that. He's such a little wolf in sheep's clothing.
That's exactly what he is. Oh, he's a bear in sheep's clothing. The wolf is like.
You're right. Wolves are crafty and cool. Yeah.
He's like a bear. He's like a hyena.
Because he's really started to tick people off because he's destroyed enough families now. You know what I'm saying? Which is really sad because at the end of the day, I think these people are miserable and they're a little bit self-loathing. I'm not a psychologist, so I can't officially diagnose these people. But, I mean, I've been around enough folks that are self-loathing. I live in Los Angeles. I've lived in New York and Los Angeles. I know a lot about self-loathing people, okay? But
wait, are we being ad hominem right now?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, anyway, let's just keep going. Let's keep going. Dive right in.
Mormon apologists generally avoid direct dialogue with thoughtful, earnest critics. Instead, they tend to only interact, at least in public, with people who think/act like they do. Mormon apologists tend to avoid any forum for discussion where they have to face critics of the church or direct criticism of their techniques or arguments. This seems both cowardly and counterproductive for those seeking truth.
Wait, you're kidding me, right? He says we're insulary? Dude, all these apologists, my problem with the apologists is they bake cookies for the people that speak evil of them.
Yeah.
Like you saw Jim Bennett meeting with Jeremy Runnels saying, oh, we're just two people that happen to have philosophical disagreements. No, you ever watched the Mormon Stories conference where Jeremy Runnels talks about coming out and why you should too and why the church is hateful and why anybody in it is just, aiding and abetting the enemy? Like, no, these people don't have philosophical disagreements with you. They hate the Mormon church.
Meeting in the middle ground for the guy whose goal is to destroy you is not the thing. All right, you can take half my leg. No, that's not how it's supposed to be. So,
anyway, keep going.
I think our issue is not that we hide away or that we don't do. I think we give the anti-Mormons too much credit, and we assume that they're coming from a place of positivity, that they actually just want to have a dialogue. But now, unfortunately, the word dialogue it doesn't mean anything.
No,
used
it
to
means
mean,
until you say what I want you to say.
Right.
I'm going to accuse you of not having started a dialogue. Because they'll literally say, this is why the Mormon church is hateful. I don't want to have a dialogue about it. No, I don't think they're hateful. Look, bro, I mean, there's definitely been historical issues that have needed to get cleaned up. There's definitely cultural issues that need to get cleaned up. Okay, but here, let's address them specifically one by one. What? You're part of the problem. You know, it's like, well, that was not a dialogue. That was you making an accusation and yelling at me until I agreed with you.
Oh, here we go. Ad hominem attacks. Mormon apologists often employ ad hominem attacks to smear the reputation of the church's critics as a way to undermine or avoid the arguments made by critics. This tactic is mean-spirited, unchristlike, and harmful, and is counterproductive to helping people with sincere questions find credible answers. Daniel Peterson, Greg Smith, and Stephen Smoot are notable examples of this tactic.
Dude, that right there.
Do not attack the person. Here are the people that do it. Attack them.
Dude. No, okay, I just looked up right now. I just Googled this, okay? Ad hominem literally is an adjective that means of an argument or reaction directed against a person rather than the position they are maintaining. And as you know, a hominid means like a human-looking person, bipedal generally. Ad means against, and hominem means the person, all right? So literally, this cat just said, read that again. He said, don't you dare make an ad hominem attack against the person as an apologist. You should instead make it against the idea. And he said what?
This tactic is mean-spirited, unchristlike, and harmful, and is counterproductive to helping people with sincere questions find credible answers. Daniel Peterson, Greg Smith, and Stephen Smoot are notable examples of this tactic.
So he literally said, don't attack the idea. No, don't attack the person, attack the idea. And then named by name, not even the organization, by name, the people that he thinks does this.
Yeah. Isn't that hilarious?
That is literally not even within the same document, hypocrisy. That is within the same sentence, hypocrisy.
You got to remember, this guy has called both me and Jackson Washburn. And by the way, Jackson Washburn and I are both members. We disagree on a number of things, but he calls us neo-apologists.
Oh, well, that's kind of cool in like a Matrix kind of way. You should take over that and appropriate it
this
and
is
just say, yo, I'm
no.
neo.
The term that's becoming popularly described this stuff I've done as pop apologetics, which I kind of like that. A pop apologist.
Okay.
It's kind of cool. But still, like John Dehlin uses the whole don't attack the person, attack the idea. He attacks the person all the time. And here's the thing. Naturally, that's kind of a thing that happens when you're in these when you're in social commentary, whether it's political or religious. You're gonna end up seeing that this.
Watch
guy has
Andrew Schultz.
I mean, this guy has a lot of opinions I don't like. You end up attacking that person. That honestly, I don't really think that's that big of a deal. The issue is when you pretend you don't, and then you call other people out on it. It's like, hey, I will never ever use the term ad hominem and be like, why are you using an ad hominem attack against me? They go, hey, Kwaku, you're a piece of shiz. All right, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't really care. I don't really care.
Hold on, I got to talk to my friends. They're calling me.
It's like I don't really care if someone else, if I've gone after a person, I know I've done it. I've done it to Zelf on the Shelf all of the time, right? I've been roasting these guys for years. But it's when these guys pretend as if they don't do it. You do it. So you put it on your list as if like it's a thing to watch out for. You know it has entertainment value. You know it's unavoidable. So stop acting like you're so high and mighty that you've been exalted above it.
Yeah, and by the way, what's the deal with it's unchrist-like claim? Like, unchrist-like is a Mormon term that it's a standard we try and hold ourselves to, which I fail at miserably. So I just call myself unchrist-like at this point.
To be honest with you, guess who did use ad hominem attacks? Who? Christ, when he called the people white sepulchres and vipers. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. We called them wicked. The most ad hominem thing, don't attack the person. What about when he destroyed the cities of Zarahemla and drowned the city of Moroni?
Well, he did call out the Romans and said, you guys should be content with your wage. It was actually his very first condemnation was against Roman soldiers. And that was a capital offense. People don't realize it, but the honor of a Roman centurion and his soldiers was so high that if you attacked the integrity of a Roman soldier with a credible, threat of some sort, you were guilty of capital offense. They could summarily execute you if they're not the soldier himself, but if the centurion felt like you had discredited his 100 soldiers, you were toast. Like he was the authority on the subject, and boom, like I am a Roman. And that's why when Paul proclaimed I am a Roman citizen, when he was jailed, he was given special treatment, right? Because
Interesting.
there was honors and respect demanded to Roman citizens, okay? And so when Jesus Christ first called out the Romans, who were known to take like side gig taxes, for protection of different areas and so on and so forth, he said, look, that's dishonest. You should be content with your wage. And so that was actually a capital offense in those days. He ran the risk of being in trouble with the Roman Empire by simply calling out Roman soldiers for taking side gigs. Right. You know what I'm saying? And flouting the system. So it's kind of strange. It's one of those things where I wish I were better at not doing it. Like, I honestly wish I were. But it's hard for me when you see people whose motive is now obviously financial and motivated not by love but by hate. They hate the Mormon church, and they're making a lot of money off of it. I mean, I've read multiple articles about John Dehlin getting in trouble for not disclosing all of his financials. You know what I'm saying? I've at this point, even if he were to realize he were wrong, he's making hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, and being cool in a way that is it's seductive. It's right. Intoxicating. You can't put that down. You know what I'm saying? I almost feel bad. I think the average active Mormon has more freedom of mind and thought, because they could go either way. They could choose to stay active, or they could choose to leave. But at the end of the day, it's based upon their choice, not upon their paycheck depending upon it. So strangely, these people's paycheck depends upon them day after day, podcast after podcast, month after month, finding ways to attack the church.
Can I make, I'm gonna up the stakes. It kind of reminds me of the first promise or covenant Satan made with Cain, where you could destroy people and gain from it.
Oh, dude,
Mayhamming.
That is bad.
Literally, that's what it is. I think we forget that is the secret, the most wicked secret Satan could give to someone.
And Jesus was promised popularity.
Yeah.
Oh.
You can always gain off the destruction of others, even financially, and that's what we're seeing these guys do.
Okay, keep going.
This next one is kind of dumb, but okay. 4. Misusing science/scholarship. Mormon apologetics are often led by those with PhDs from reputable universities under the guise of credible scholarship, quote unquote. However, much of the writings produced by these apologetic scholars do not actually employ the scientific peer review process, and instead present shoddy, muddled, or ridiculous arguments that often run counter to the prevailing wisdom of the scientific community, thus creating...
Okay, stop, Kwaku. Hold on. These are the same people that were hiring scientists to tell the public that cigarettes don't cause emphysema. For 30 years straight, scientists were getting paid to tell Americans that cigarettes don't cause cancer. Meanwhile, the Mormon church is out there saying, nah, we're going to word of wisdom this. No. Don't smoke. Your body's a temple. So
Yeah.
he's going to say, oh, well, you got to agree with the scientific community at large. Oh, please. Science has become just as, quote, science has become just as politically and financially motivated as newspapers have at this point, all right? You can't tell me just because the Salt Lake Tribune wrote an article and the University of Utah dropped a 1,500 person survey of their anti-Mormon student body. You know what I'm saying? That all of a sudden you've got the upper hand on, quote, science, dog.
Here's why you know this is ridiculous, because he doesn't stop himself. He gets in his own way, Dehlin. And here's what I mean. Much of the writings produced by these apologetic scholars do not actually employ the scientific peer review process. Okay, stop right there. Huh, is that true? Interesting. Let me read more about that. But then he goes on to say, and instead present shoddy, muddled or ridiculous arguments. Right when you start saying, and their arguments are just ridiculous, that sounds like a personal bias or personal problem you have with the apologetics. But when you say, if he left it at, oh yeah, their articles are coming out with are not peer reviewed, then that's an actual case you have to make against the apologetics.
Yeah.
But instead he kept going, and you could tell there's the personal bias of it. And the arguments are ridiculous, and I don't like what they're saying, and it's stupid. John, this just sounds like you're mad. Again, it sounds like the missionaries knocked on your door,
and it's worse.
Girl, you brought out the gun.
And the worst part is, though, that they say, look, it's stupid, and by the way, let me charge you to come to our conference or our faith crisis cruise and tell you why it's stupid, and then show you the door out of the church into my new church. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the weird thing is, it doesn't seem like they're actually interested in making, like, it's just a new church. That's all it is. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to tell you a story real quick. When I was in
Instead of
middle
tithing
school,
that goes to like wheat and peach farms.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It goes to like
tithing that goes to him so he can cruise on. By the way, can Mormons start having like, I don't know, like conference on cruises?
Yeah, I think the apologetic
Can our
groups,
state conferences be on cruise ships?
No, I think Interpreter, Fair, Book of Mormon Central, these guys need to start upping their conferences and make them cool, and then have the ex-Mormons like, I'm just sitting in the University of Utah gym right now, and those guys are having a rooftop party on top of the. Wow, that's really cool. Anyway, but when I was in middle school,
finish up.
I was going through my atheist phase, and there was
Okay.
an atheist YouTuber I watched named The Amazing Atheist.
Okay.
TJ Kirk was his name. He's not really popular anymore, but he was really funny and he was really entertaining. But he was a very honest atheist. His whole thing was, I don't believe in a God. I'm not trying to steer you anywhere. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I don't care if you're pro-life or pro-choice. I don't care if you like gays or don't like gay. I don't care.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's a God.
I'm in the I don't care club too.
And that guy was like, I was like, that guy's an atheist. He's not trying to bring you into any new church or any new group. There's nothing he ever said, go pay money for this or go be part of this. Like, I don't believe it, and that's it. Literally, I don't care after that. Now the top atheists on YouTube are like the Mr. Atheists and those guys. And they're not really atheists.
No,
there's Christianity is false, but kind of join my new kind of Gnostic, strange social justice religion.
And it's very politically motivated. That's what I was about to say. It's almost always just a brand of social justice.
Yeah, yeah.
If we're honest with ourselves, it's just another brand of cultural Marxism, critical theory, and social justice.
Big time.
And they've learned to use religious speak and atheistic speak in order to convert it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And make it digestible. So I do find that very interesting. It is a missionary effort, but instead of saying, hey, come to our church where we're going to give you all this stuff and love you as best we can as flawed individuals.
Can I say something wild that
what?
maybe won't make the cut?
What? Don't say something I have to edit out. So far, I haven't had anything I need to edit out.
Maybe the John Dehlin bags. But explain what I meant by that.
Yeah,
What I meant.
No, I condemned that on air. That's your comment and you're
It's
alone.
I've
but
said
keep
crazier.
going.
But history repeats itself, right? And whenever the non-mainstream secular pseudo-religious movement gets hold, what happens after? What happens?
Tribalism, degradation of society, beyond any moral decay any old Christians worried about. We're talking legitimate violence, revolution, bloodshed, depression, suicide skyrockets.
Who won
It's hilarious.
Rome?
I was reading a hilarious study where supposedly like suicides go down after every conference in Utah.
Elder Oak spoke 5 minutes ago, and it looks like 35 gay kids just killed themselves. No, actually, they didn't. And by the way, I get so annoyed about that because I never see names. You never have names or addresses or anything of the people.
Well, and they're always quoting the 2015 study, which is so sad because there was that year in which I think it was 28 people ended up committing suicide instead of the usual around 12 or 13 statewide or whatever it was. Like the number virtually doubled. Right. And then they wanted to use that as an absolute and immediate indictment of the Mormon faith. But the problem is when you dived into the numbers, first off, the study didn't actually track whether or not they were gay or straight. Okay. And some of the kids that were self-terminating were as young as 8 years old, 11 years old. We're talking about prepubescents that aren't having any attractions either way.
Right.
So obviously there's something more going on here. And do I think that it's beyond the pale that somebody had such a horrible situation of homophobia that they didn't consider self-harm? No, I absolutely think that's possible.
Right.
And let's route that out. Let's address this. Let's talk to the people and say, hey, look, our doctrine does not mean hatred. Anybody that's interpreting that is interpreting it wrong and needs to be corrected through loving church authority. And if they're not going to correct their way, they need to be excommunicated.
Right.
I think you should be excommunicated for legitimate homophobia. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As if it's converting into action. You know what I'm saying?
Right. If you're targeting and harassing groups of people based on race or gender or whatever.
Yeah. Like here, I'm the guy.
At least take away the temple recommend. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like here, I am the guy saying, you should be X for homophobia, especially if it's causing problems within the community. That's not good enough for these people. That's not good enough.
Well, so going on. So basically, they're bringing him to a new church, right? So he goes on. thus creating the impression of scholarship to the sincere reader, while in fact betraying many of the basic fundamentals of the scientific academic community. In this sense, they are betraying both science/the academic community and the earnest learner simultaneously. Hugh Nibley, John Gee, and John Sorensen are three of the most notable and egregious examples of this point.
Because to them, the only earnest learner is somebody who's trying to learn facts against the church.
Oh, yeah.
You're not an earnest learner if you're reading those faith-inspiring stories about how prayer maybe helped somebody get through a difficult time. No. That's not earnest.
I don't want to academic shame anyone because I'm still in my undergrad, but John Dehlin went to Utah State. John Gee went to Yale. He's calling John Gee a false academic. He went to Yale, dude.
Oh, and Bushman. He called out Bushman too.
Professor of religion at Columbia right now.
Yeah, but he was also the dean of religious studies at Harvard.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was like the dean of the department at Harvard. Yeah, okay, so you got the guy who's now a professor at one Ivy League, who is the dean of another Ivy League, and the brother that went to Yale getting taken down by the Aggie.
Yeah. I've been to Logan. The Cache Valley is beautiful. I like their cheese. That's the only cheese I buy. That's about all I have to say about Utah State.
Yeah, and I'm not going to academic shame anybody either because I'm actually coming from the place.
They do throw great parties at Utah State. I will say I'm very jealous of how big their parties are.
Yeah, and you're right. That's such a beautiful place. And I actually like Utah State. I think it's cool. I come from the fold, though. I think colleges just increasingly become not even worth it. You know what I'm saying? I think both Yale and all these places become corrupted. But anyway, keep going.
Financials. Oh, by the way, also Hugh Nibley. Hugh Nibley.
Yeah, how do you take down Hugh Nibley? That's a tough one. That's kind of like going after George Washington.
Hugh Nibley is because he's
dead. It's a different time.
We've had LDS apologists since the beginning, but Hugh Nibley was really the guy to really push it into the mainstream.
Okay.
And he's like the granddaddy of all this, right? Nibley.
Yeah, it's kind of like making fun of somebody's granddad. It's kind of just off limits, right?
It's like it's like almost if we went after
there is
Fawn
no more
Brody,
off limits.
they'd be like, "Don't make fun of Fawn Brody. She's already passed."
I'll make fun of Fawn Brody because it's like a cultural thing at this point. She's the original gangster of anti-Mormons,
Yeah.
So you kind of make fun of Fawn Brody in the way that
Actually, I'd give that to John C. Bennett.
Okay.
Okay. Financial social incentives. This brother's going to talk about financial and social incentives. This guy is going to talk about financial and social incentives.
How much do you think he makes?
Oh, I mean, I've heard figures dropped. I don't really know. I know it's probably in the hundreds of thousands, at least maybe 200,000 a year. That's the number I've heard.
Okay.
But I'm not going to say one way or another. Financial/social because I've seen people try to track like the money I made when I was on Three Mormons, and they did an abysmal job of it.
Come on, you don't make any cash off that.
Not smart at all. Yeah. Financial/social incentives. Historically, the most notable Mormon apologists have usually received either significant monetary compensation or social status from their associations with the church, thus providing them with financial or social incentive to mislead earnest seekers. Folks like Hugh Nibley, Daniel Peterson, John Gee, Terrell Givens, Richard Bushman, Patrick Mason, Spencer Fluman, etc., all fall under this category. By the way, this is important to know. Patrick Mason, somewhat Terrell Givens, and somewhat Spencer Fluman are more in the progressive Mormon category as opposed to sort of conservative Mormonism, right? Like kind of like status quo.
Believe it or not, it's not a monolith.
Yeah, it's not. Status quo sort of Ensign LDS living members of the church, and then you have more of the progressive members of the church, right?
Yeah.
He's naming both of these kinds of guys.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times progressive members of the church who might vote Democrat, who lean a little more left, who are actually okay with perhaps changing the temple ceremony to include two
the
men.
pants at church chicks.
Right. These people think, oh, we're the bridge between the John Dehlins and the faithful members. You're not. They hate you more because you're almost a traitor. And the fact that you haven't joined their side yet makes them hate you even more. And they will bully and berate you until you fall to your knees and say, the Book of Mormon isn't true. And then they go, hey, come on our cruise. Like, literally, that's what goes on. You got to remember, it's the status quo guys like Cardon and I. We're the ones we're in the safe category because we've already distanced ourselves enough. The progressive members.
It's a hilarious little gray area because like you got like the old school boomer Mormons who see your like Instagram feed and they're like, oh, what are these parties? What do you know? Is he active? Like I I had boomers at church asking if I was still active when I went to New York, like asking if I was gay or if I had succumbed to science, or I had these 60-year-olds asking my parents if I was still active.
When I joined the church in Houston, I got the priesthood literally the day after I was confirmed, and then a temple recommend the same week. They gave me everything because 2 weeks later I was leaving to San Francisco, and they're like, he's probably going to go inactive in San Francisco. Let's give him everything now and hope it'll work out. It's great.
Oh, dude, that's actually really funny, dude.
Yeah, they just boom, 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 go.
Yeah.
Okay, but remember.
My chemo brain's kicking in. I totally forgot what we were talking about.
Let's go on. We'll keep on. Blaming the victim, not church leadership. Mormon apologists too often blame those who have sincere doubts as being responsible for their own predicament while never publicly blaming the church or its leaders as the source of their problems. That right there, okay.
Pure BS. Pure, unadulterated BS. I have no questions with anybody that has honest doubts.
Of course not.
No questions whatsoever. In fact, let's talk about it. My biggest beef with church history is that not that we read less, let's read more. When you realize how crazy it was, how we barely survived. I think the biggest miracle of the 19th century was that Brigham Young kept the church together. And it was crazy. He did so much undoctrinal crap. He baptized every single adult male of the church again, which is against church doctrine since I swear frickin' Joseph Smith times, okay? Just to recommit him to the gospel. When you see I think even Heber, I can't remember, one of the first 4 presidents of the church had this run-in with Paiute Indians where they were sacrificing. It was there was I can't remember, there was an Indian burial of a chief that they had to attend. And in the journal that I was reading, they were worried about them getting killed because they were opposing the wife and the child getting killed on the burial mound with them. There was just this nuts stuff that happened. So it all of a sudden contextualizes a lot of this crazy stuff where you literally had pioneers who thought tomorrow we might be attacked by the Indian tribe that my uncle pissed off, or we might be saved by the good Indian chief that likes us, that we share hunting grounds with. And also, there's freaking the mob out here because they don't like that we, took away 20 Baptists, when we, and then there's these Irish folks that hate us. Oh, and now we got the KKK in the South threatening to kill us. You know what I'm saying? So it's
insanity. The stuff that was happening, it was literally that needs to be an HBO miniseries, and it would win every Emmy and Golden Globe because
no, it won't, because Mormons made it.
I still think the story can be compelling enough.
Okay.
When I was in San Francisco, mind you, in one of the most liberal cities in America, I was the only member of the church. Well, there's 3 members of the church at the school I went to. One was inactive, the other one was married. I was the only one in the social scene.
Okay.
And they would ask me these questions, and they were in their heads, we were just suburban, boring people. They knew nothing about our history besides Joseph Smith and the golden plates. That's it.
Yeah.
And when you tell them stories about Brigham Young, they go, yeah, is Brigham kind of racist? And I go, yeah, he said some racist stuff in the desert. Guess what? If you recorded everything I said, believe me. Okay? So, but I would tell them, hey, we were the first group really to start mass adopting Native American children. Because the Ute Indians wanted to get money and they wanted resources, and they would bring children to the saints, and they would say, "Buy this child as a slave," and the church would say,
"No, that's horrible."
And the pioneers said, "Yeah, no, thanks." And so they would say, "If you don't, we're gonna kill the kid." And they started killing the kids. So then the church members were like, "Okay, frick, buy the kids."
What?
Buy the kids. So we were buying. So the Mormon Indian slave trade was because we were buying Native American children, so they weren't getting murdered, and so
Shut up.
We were literally
really
buying the slave children from the Utes and giving them resources.
Okay, so here, just to prove that you have a commitment to academic excellence, I want to see the citation on that.
Oh my gosh, sorry, oh my gosh. You can read about this history of the church. You can read about it, just about everywhere. BYU, if you just Google BYU studies Ute slave trade, it'll give you everything.
That is heartbreaking.
People don't know this.
Well, and here's the other thing, though. It's funny you mentioned history of the church, though, because I have read not all the books of the history of church. It's like a 12-volume series or something absurd like that. But that really
Conflict of Justice. Look up Conflict of Justice. They're a pretty good website on this stuff. Some of their stuff is They have a good stuff on this.
But that's the other thing that bothers me is when these ex-Mormon people, they're always trying to say, "Oh, I was lied to. I was lied to." That's always the big thing. I was lied to. They find out about the Kinderhook plates or about the Mountain Meadows massacre or whatever, you know. These things that once contextualized don't become faith-destroying events, but become faith-augmenting events.
Right.
Okay. Actually, I wouldn't say the Mountain Meadows massacre has a faith-augmenting aspect to it.
Increased my testimony of Brigham Young.
But
he took out the bad guys. Bad members of the church.
No, but there's no proof that Brigham Young actually authorized or condoned the...
He had the murderers, the murderous Mormons who killed that group.
He
had them executed.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
No, he had them executed, and it was summarily. And yes, I even have my questions about that whole process from A to B. But at the end of the day, when you read about it, you quickly realize it's not at all the caricature that the ex-Mormon, anti-Mormons paint. That it's a completely different story, and once contextualized, it actually kind of unfortunately makes a lot of sense and shows that we're all flawed. That humans, when acting out of fear instead of acting out of love, make sometimes life-threatening and very, very bad decisions that can affect generations.
I
after
found
us.
as a black member of the church, learning the church's history about race in depth has increased my testimony big time. Did you know that Joseph Smith approved Jane Manning, an African-American woman? She was never a slave, but she was escaping like slave traders, to be sealed to him as a sister?
Oh yeah, back when they had the it was called the brothership anointing, or the
Emma,
where you could adopt somebody spiritually as a brother
Emma
or
Smith
a sister.
became
Yeah.
best friends with Jane Manning because Joe said live in our house because none of the members would rent to them because they were like racist back in the 19th century. Live with them. Joseph
Smith was like the most egalitarian dude out there.
Bro, guess who guards his body? When he's dead, they bring his body back to Emma's home with a gun. Jane Manning, a black woman, and Emma Smith for 24 hours grab guns and guard the body of Joseph Smith because the mob wants to chop his head and put it on a stake for money. A black woman freaking guards Joseph Smith's dead body.
That is so cool.
That is so cool. And guess what? We don't talk about it. And then Emma
Dude,
brings it to
that needs to be like, I'm going to call
it's in a
up.
movie. It's in a movie.
I'm going to call
with
up
Jane
Jerry Garnes, the freaking greatest photographer the world's ever seen.
So cool.
And we're going to reenact that, dude.
Dude,
just his bloodied corpse dripping blood on the table, and there's freaking Jane Manning and that was a Browning rifle. That was a straight up John Moses Brown. No, that was his son, was John Moses Brown. But that was a straight up freshly freaking forged Browning rifle. That is like Harriet Tubman east of the Mississippi. Actually, no, both are east of the Mississippi. I'm going to find up a better. I would say Harriet Tubman 2.0 because I actually am related to people that helped Harriet Tubman, which is kind of crazy.
Well, Underground Railroad either went through Nauvoo or Kirtland. I'm trying to figure out which one, but
it's crazy. Like, I mean, Joseph Smith was the original gangster of abolition.
Oh, and by the way, his famous quote: "If I had anything to do with the Negro, I'd separate them to their own species."
Oh,
that was the same year he was living with Jane Manning.
What?
Basically,
he said that?
Yeah. He had to separate because remember his platform when he was going to be president was buy all the slaves, give them their own land, and have like make them all American citizens, and like give them money to build their own city, and do like a separate but equal, which was the liberal position at the time.
Whoa.
So he said, if I had anything to do with the Negro, I'd separate the. He was trying to use that
stop
language.
saying that word on my podcast.
I can say it. No.
Well, yeah, but I think YouTube still nicks me for it.
Oh. Well, basically, the position at the time, that was the liberal position.
Yeah.
And he was, because people were coming after the Saints for being these abolitionists, and he didn't want any more members getting killed by the slave owners. He's basically like, we don't have anything to do with them. Hey, didn't you ordain like black men to the priesthood? Aren't you living with a black woman? If I had anything to do with them, I would totally. Shit. Like, come on, Joseph Smith was
okay.
Really
So
cool.
we've got literally 2 more minutes here to wrap this up.
Basically, he ends with the big thing about gaslighting.
Okay.
And
dude, gaslighting, that new word that people
really
figured
mean
out
anything.
in 2015. Yeah, it's pathetic. There's always these words that come out, like even in Mormon culture, like it used to be in the 80s and 90s to say, oh, that's just really special. And special was a thing. And I was ready to vomit when I heard the word because I was like, you've just butchered this word. Then tender mercies was like hip from 2013 to 2015.
Right.
Some ex-Mormon figured out gaslighting.
Yeah.
And now like gaslighting is said about any time you just make a basic factual statement.
Yeah.
Like you literally could just say.
You disagree with an ex-Mormon or an anti-Mormon, you're gaslighting them.
Yeah.
And if you support your position and say, here's what I think, oh, I can't believe you're gaslighting us.
Yeah. You literally could say, Joseph Smith actually met with Martin Van Buren and was really actually a person who was trying to collect resources for his people. You're gaslighting me. You know what I'm
You know what
saying?
I'll say? At least the early anti-Mormons weren't wimpy. Like they were horrible murderers. But do you think they said Joseph Smith is gaslighting us? Hey, you should read the studies because psychologically that's an unfair test. No,
Dude, it's so true, man. We used to have actually. Maybe we've come a long way.
What kind of rebel rock star says you're gaslighting me? You're supposed to be the freaking rebels taking down the system.
No, but I think that's
rip off your shirts playing guitar.
No, they've adopted the language of their accusers.
Right.
Of their oppressors.
Right.
Like, this is what leftist secularism has done to our society. It's grandified and lionized the victim. So now the way of gaining the upper hand in an argument is by showing that you are the victim.
Right.
When strangely, you've actually adopted the position of those that killed children in the Hans Mill massacre.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
John Dehlin is literally on the side of the people who murdered children in the Hans Mill massacre.
Yeah.
Philosophically, at least. Okay. Mm-hmm. And of course, he's going to chop this up probably and take out the philosophically at least part.
I like the Hans Mill massacre.
Yeah. So, but I mean, if you think about it, like whether it's if you boil it down to a Mormon, pro-Mormon or anti-Mormon stance, at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? He's on the anti-Mormon side. We all know it. Let's call a spade a spade.
Right.
Right. But like, it's so unedgy, and the hilarious part is you're perceived as un-Christ-like for having a party. I don't know. I think Jesus would have partied. I'll be honest with you. I think it would have been totally
he drank
down.
With his friends?
Yeah, he would be down with a hootenanny. His first miracle was at a freaking party. He converted water to wine. Dude, that dude is the one that showed up with the boombox, and everybody wanted to listen to Kanye. But the parents said no, so some guy found the clean edited version, hooked up the Bluetooth on the boombox, and made the party start happening. That was literally what Jesus Christ did, converting wine to water.
John, are you,
or water to wine.
Cardon, are you saying that I'm edgier than John Dehlin?
Well, no, I think a barrel of salt is edgy. But
you got to remember, I think I'll close with this. At the end of the day, these guys are still Wasatch Front suburbanites living in a cul-de-sac, driving a Nissan Altima. That's what they are.
Hey, yeah, but there's Mormon guys that have really cool lives that still are that too as well.
Right, but remember...
Intellectually, it's not edgy.
Intellectually, it's not edgy, but when you think of taking down the archetypal religious institution, you think of like a Marilyn Manson. You think of a George Carlin. You think of a rock star, a comedian, just against the system.
Yeah.
No, these guys aren't that. And once people figure out that they're not that, it's kind of just suburban drama. It's literally suburban church drama, which is not that exciting.
It's true.
You know what's more exciting? Finding golden plates in the ground, translating with a rock, and leading 70,000 people to Mexico to form a city. That's exciting. That's way cooler.
All right, so we got to go. Where can people find you, dog?
You can find me on Instagram at KwakuL and YouTube Kwaku, Kwaku, and then Kwakuel.
All right, cool. See you next time, dog.
See you guys.